about the movie. I'm a Bob Dylan fan. Okay, I don't have a lot of Bob Dylan albums, and I'll tell you why. I have the essential Bob Dylan. Okay, and this is a double album set, and it's got all my favorite songs on it. I don't know how I could, improve on my library here. I mean, right off the bat, you've got "Blowing in the Wind." I love that damn song. The answer, my friend, is "Blowing in the Wind." And "Don't Think Twice, It's All Right." "The Times They Are Changing." I mean, it just Maggie's Farm, Mr. Tambourine Man. I mean, it just goes from one masterpiece to another. So when you own this album, you're in pretty damn good shape. I do got a couple of others. Don't get me wrong. I've had this for a long time, and it's Bob Dylan, "Nashville Skyline," and it's got great songs on it too. And then another one that's actually a soundtrack, and that's it for me. It's Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid.
Love that movie.
Oh, I know. So, like I said, I just got these three, and one of them is a soundtrack. But you know what? I love these songs. I am a Bob Dylan fan. Now, Michael, I think you aren't quite the Bob Dylan fan I am, right?
First of all, as a songwriter, I concur with everything you just said. I think he is a songwriter on the level of John Lennon and Paul McCartney. I think
I do too.
I think if you really want to criticize him, most people would say that John Lennon was the, and there's some truth to this. He's the lyricist out of the Beatles, although McCartney could match him on any given song. Blackbird is like talking about,
Blackbird, that's a great one.
Talking about important issues. But most people will go, John Lennon was the guy that, with his wittisms and all of that. I would have to say that Bob Dylan, when you compare him to John Lennon, he even had more to say. So as a songwriter, I am a major Bob Dylan fan.
He's a great songwriter.
Here's the bugaboo. I can't stand his voice. I can't stand that, once upon a time, Frankenstein lost his mind. I did this to the guys earlier. Getting high. I mean, my God. So I've never bought any of his albums, although now I'm getting back into vinyl. I kind of want Free Willin' and maybe two more. But it's not an enjoyable. I feel like I'm watching the Tin Man on The Wizard of Oz. And when he's, squeaking and stuff, Bob Dylan is the only guy that makes Axl Rose actually sound decent, in my opinion. So
that's
now, having said that, Lay Lady Lay showed that he could sing. And I don't understand why, unless it was just part of his gimmick and all of that. All right. Now, they were talking about this movie over on Rachel's Ghost today. They had a really good episode over there. And everybody's talking great things like you did about this movie. So
I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, I wasn't about to go there. So first of all, I'm not a Chalamet fan, or whatever Timothy's last name is actually pronounced. He did well in the first Dune, ruined the whole franchise in the second. I think he's a poster boy who's always a poser. He's posing. Like, that's acting. We've seen actors like that before. And Mazzy was bringing up a good point that I disagree with, and that is, and Rob was backing him up, and Rob should know why these things occur, is that biopics have this horrible responsibility of changing the story so that it fits within a 2-hour, 3-hour movie, depending on how long it is, and to make it more entertaining. My reaction to that is twofold. First of all, if that's what a biopic is, fuck biopics. I don't like them. Okay. The only biopic I find even tolerable is the Buddy Holly story, and it's got as many holes in it as most of the others, but at least they played their own instruments and totally hid the third cricket, which I hated. Okay. And then on top of that, so I guess I don't like biopics. And my other criticism to what I think it was specifically Mazzy saying, no, Rob was in on this too, where was that they have to change things up in order to make it more palatable, more of a story. Forget that shit, man. I mean, this is fucking Bob Dylan. When Queen came out, that basically Brian May character just stood there holding a pick, and they called it Bohemian Rhapsody when it should have been the Freddie Mercury story. I am a major Queen fan,
right?
And you can, and the amount. I mean, there are so many holes in that story, and this whole idea, well, you got to tie it up, you got to make it more romantic. It's like, no, these are 60s legends and 70s legends. These are they got a story, baby. They got a story. Tell it like it is, or don't bother me.
Not everybody likes Bob Dylan's voice, and I understand why, because I like his voice.
Yeah,
but I still do little parodies of it. I'll go like, "How many roads must a man walk down?" And I'll mess around like that just for fun. But I like his voice.
Well, it's like, I actually
like Axl Rose's voice too.
Yeah, well, there's no accounting for taste, Royce. I will save your soul before it's over. I am here to save your rock and roll soul. Now, I was going to say, that's a good point. And just because I don't care for his voice does not take away his greatness or his story. The biopic will take away from his story.
Well, you know what? I go to the movies to be entertained, and Betty and I were.
I know this is what they were talking about.
Really entertained by his biopic. Okay.
I really like the third act on this film where Bob Dylan takes the nuclear device and saves the White House. I mean, it might as well be that shit, man. It's like. Royce, these guys have an entertaining story. You don't need to be changing it up. As a matter of fact, what's not being included.
That's a really good point, Michael.
I mean, these are legends. These are legends. Their story is great. Yeah, I know. What I do on my channel is often I cover the story of these bands. Right. And I get plenty of views for my own little small channel. Regarding that, there is an interest in the truth. I'm still waiting for an honest biopic. My God,
Well, you know what? I know, but I'm fine sometimes with just being entertained. But I needed to ask Chris, just as I asked you, Michael, are you a Bob Dylan fan?
Yes, to a certain extent.
Okay.
Like when I was a kid, one of the cassettes my parents always had, where I put it, in the car when we were going to like hockey practice or something, was the greatest hits, eh?
Yeah, that's a great one.
I remember listening to that all the time.
Right.
And I was going to make one more comment. It kind of goes along with what you guys are both talking about, is the fact that he's one of the greatest songwriters.
Thank you, Joseph.
And he's also a very unique singer, like his voice or not. He was a very influential singer at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And just to cap off everything is, how many other people, except maybe the Beatles, have you heard people cover their songs? Like as many.
Oh, I know.
I know.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
He's
Bob Dylan is like
terrific songwriter. Absolutely.
Yeah. Bob Dylan, to me, he's like the most organic Brill building songwriter of them all, except that he wasn't at the Brill building. But to me, I haven't heard a song by him that isn't at least worthy of a play if you like his voice. Well, when other people cover, like my favorite Jimi Hendrix cut is All Along the Watchtower. My favorite.
Love that song.
Yeah. I mean, his songs made the Byrds. We would not have gotten Norwegian Wood, or before that, You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. That's John Lennon being Bob Dylan, man. And even McCartney doing what is that? I've just seen a face I can't forget the time. That's influenced by Dylan, right? Yep. So he is a great and grand, legendary figure. There is no doubt about that. My criticisms are, the reason why I don't have his albums is the voice, and I'm not a fan of the biopic approach. But
well, I agree with Catherine here. You know, the acting in the movie was excellent. Edward
hi,
Norton
Catherine.
and as Pete Seeger, that was excellent. I mean, the acting was really, really good. I thought. I saw it on Christmas Day when it came out. My wife and I went to the movies, and I tell you what, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was thoroughly entertained. Historically accurate, probably
Most
not
of them
that
are.
much. Like most of them are, exactly.
But you have to add some
just like-
entertainment.
Yeah, and I was entertained, and that's what matters to me when I go to a movie. And it was the same. I did a show right before Bob Marley's biopic, and I'm a big Bob Marley fan. That came out. I did a show on that too, and I couldn't tell you how much of that was historically accurate, but I could tell you how much I enjoyed it. And
I heard it wasn't, but
like I said, I would recommend going to see the Bob Dylan biopic. I did enjoy it.
Now, here's another argument that was mentioned that I didn't mention before that's in favor of the movie and these kind of biopics, is that it gets younger fans interested in the music again. Queen's
exactly
catalog, for example, just set a record by selling over $1 billion. All right. I mean, almost doubling what Dylan got for his catalog. That all of that is a direct result of that of Bohemian Rhapsody, which is a horrible movie as far as the accuracy and everything goes. But it got a lot of, people had
a lot of great music, though, right?
Well, people had quit listening to Queen there for a while. You didn't hear, I mean, other than, you'd hear We Will Rock You, which is one of the most boring Queen songs in the world. But you would hear that. You would hear, of course, Mama Just Killed a Man. You'd hear that. But a lot of their great stuff was dropping off the airwaves bit by bit. And if there was a band, like I told Royce, I think I finally have chosen Yes as my fourth band. But the other band that I was very tempted to put into fourth place, as far as my fourth favorite band, was Queen. Now, when that movie came out, that did a ton of work towards making Queen a household name again. And it is, I believe, a direct response why they were the first band to command $1 billion for their music catalog. When 5 years ago, you couldn't get them on the radio. They wouldn't play Killer Queen even.
I'd like to add that these movies that are, going back, showcasing artists from yesterday and years before, the nice part about them is they don't have to be, nailed on the head accurate, but it's every generation coming up, including our own, has always, we're the first ones to ever have to go through turmoil and have this problem and have that problem and blah, blah, blah. And it's exposing the future generations to it's the same as it always was.
Yeah.
And yet it's different. And it's exposing them to music that got them, or a lot of them, to where they are today. So I think even though they're not, historically exactly accurate, they're exposing, future generations to music that may have skipped them by if not for, exposure this way.
And so much, when it comes to the editing, in fact, my deceased sister's son is a film editor down in the Hollywood area. And he, when it comes to editing, I mean, you have choices to make, okay? What you're going to cut out and what you're going to leave in and what's going to make the show maybe more successful. But like The Godfather, for example, one of my favorite all-time movies, I bet if you hadn't cut any film out, that thing would be days long.
Most of them would.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the whole thing, you've got a lot of stuff gets cut out,
Yeah. Well, another biopic that completely reinvigorated interest in a classic rocker was my favorite biopic, and I like it because the actors actually play their instruments while they're doing it.
Yeah.
Of course, and I'm talking the Buddy Holly story.
Yeah.
When that came out, everybody who was in their 20s and in their teens were out buying the soundtrack to that album and lining up to see that film 4, 5, 6 times before it left the theaters. If you remember, it even had that first work in a major film of a steady cam of them coming down the stairway. Yep. That had never been achieved before. Right. And it is as inaccurate as the Queen biopic, or excuse me, I shouldn't call it the Queen biopic. It's the Freddie Mercury story, relegating, the other three to just holding picks. I've said this pre-show, picks and drumsticks in the background. Like it's all about, we talked about We Will Rock You. All right. I didn't think that was my favorite Queen song, but it's probably everybody. Oh, all right. That song wasn't written by Freddie Mercury. That was a Brian May song. Okay. So when they did the Buddy Holly story, of course, Paul McCartney had just bought his catalog himself. That's how McCartney became a billionaire, was through getting interested and publishing music, getting the owner's rights. Yeah. He was the original rocker to ever get involved in that. Yeah. As a matter of fact, you can see the germ of that happening in the Get Back film when Dick Lester comes in. Not Dick Lester, Dick Rowe. Anyway, he's the guy that sang the song Robin Hood, riding through the Glen in the old Robin Hood TV show that many of us grew up. Well, he owned the Beatles' a portion of their catalog, and so he was going in and he's saying we can buy this and that, and you see him in the film, McCartney and him. At first, John's interested. McCartney follows him over, and they're back. They're talking. Right there is the germ. Right there is where McCartney's getting the idea to get into these. But anyway, it reinvigorated Buddy Holly's entire stature in rock.
I'm sure I'll catch it eventually, but I'm not going to run out and watch it. But
no, I'll give it a watch, but I'm not going to go out to a theater to watch it.
Right, that's what I was. Right, I thought I was clear about that. Yeah, I will catch it. Netflix or something. Eventually, it'll show up. But some of his music is really good. His voice style, it's not. It's like a fine wine. You either develop a taste for it or you don't.
That's what I was.
Well, it's like we've talked about this. My wife cannot stand Rod Stewart's voice. She just can't stand it. I've even gone back quite recently and showed her some Jeff Beck group stuff with him, and she goes, "It still grades on me." Now, for whatever reason, it just does. And I can sit here until I'm blue in the face and going, but you understand, darling, he is considered, not just by me, but by rock in general, as one of rock's premier blues vocalists. Yeah. There's a reason why Jeff Beck wanted him in his group, but she, to this day, she just can't, she can't make that jump, and I can't. And she also reiterated my belief with Bob Dylan. She also pretty much agrees with me with Bob Dylan. He's never really done much for her either. So,
and then they invented strawberry. Right.
And then there was the strawberry incident.
Yeah, Royce has got this comment on here.
Feels forever.
From Eric Schultz here, this comment, Royce, I agree. Yeah. Like he changed his voice. Another example of how his voice is different is listen to Tweeter and the Monkey Man from the Traveling Wilburys. That's a different style of his singing. That's
and Eric is right. Lay Lady Lay is a wonderful song, and I love his voice in that. That's the one song where I go, wow. almost crooner like. I love it.
I'll go ahead. I'll just say that I personally enjoyed the movie. I was very entertained by it, and that's what I want to say about the movie. How about you, Michael? What do you think?
Well, I've already said what I was going to say, but Royce, I was going to tell you, I've got. I bring up this point for a little shameless promotion, if you don't mind, since we're closing off.
Oh, no, you go right ahead.
I just on my channel, I have done a series of polls. This is a 6-part poll.
Yeah, I've been.
And it actually has wound up becoming my most successful poll. 11,500 votes so far on this puppy.
Nice.
And the amazing thing was this. It was, like I said, 6 parts. I covered the top-selling albums of rock and roll. And out of those, the top winners of the first 5 parts, or first 4 parts, I should say. Let's see, where was this? There we go. I'm going to get down to this. It was a 5-part poll. So the first 4, the winner in all of these was Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin, 1971, 24 million sold. So it won in its category. The White Album with 24 million sales. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, folks, is these are all albums we have quite recently discussed on this show. Physical Graffiti won in its category with 16 million sold, and Note 2 double albums as the greatest sellers. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment. And then finally, Dark Side of the Moon, okay, with a total of 15 million. Okay, now that's registered on this list. Now, which of those albums do you guys think? I'd like to go around the panel. 1, the White Album, Led Zeppelin 1, or Led Zeppelin 4, I should say. Yeah, it was Led Zeppelin 4. I've got the wrong year on it.
Yeah.
Physical Graffiti or Dark Side? Who won it?
I said Led Zeppelin 4 on that. That was that was what I voted, Led Zeppelin 4.
I'd say
Okay.
Zeppelin 4 or Dark Side of the Moon, but I think Dark Side probably would have won it.
Right. Okay, how about you, Nick?
Dark Side with a close Physical Graffiti.
And that's the thing. I would have thought more along the lines as you. I was quite surprised with this poll. The winner is the White Album by the Beatles. It took 37% of the vote. Now, in number 2 was Dark Side of the Moon, 32%, with only 22% going to Led Zeppelin 4 and only 10% to Physical Graffiti under these conditions.
I do remember. I mean, I did pick my favorite out of this group, but I do remember as the poll progressed, there was one place where I did choose the White Album.
Right? Yeah. Okay, good. But I just thought it was quite interesting because I did this poll knowing that we had covered so many of these albums in the last 3 or 4 months, or they've been mentioned while we covered another album so many times. But I'm amazed because the White Album still holds the ground with the people. That I was amazed how well the White Album did, especially when I believe was it Abbey Road was on the list to begin with. And it's the White Album, that people voted for. That's their favorite.